Alright, let's do this. Character creation made quick. My goal is to finish this in under 8 minutes. So first up we have the ability scores. There are 6 abilities in D&D. What you're going to want to do is take the numbers 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8 and put them into these 6 abilities in a way that makes sense for the character that you're trying to build. So strength is obviously how strong your character is. Dexterity is pretty much how quick on their feet your character is. Constitution is how many hits your character can take and keep going. Intelligence is how smart they are. Wisdom is their ability to look at the world around them and make decisions based off of that. And finally, charisma is their ability to talk to other people, convince them of things, and even lie. So you're just going to take those 6 numbers and put them into those boxes right there. Next up, we have selecting a race. Every single race has a little buff to those numbers that you just put into those 6 boxes. So for example, dwarves have a constitution of +2. So if you put 15 into your constitution and you're a dwarf, that's going to be 17 instead of 15. Additionally, some races have sub-races. So we have a dwarf, and then the sub-races are mountain dwarf and hill dwarf. So all dwarves get a constitution of +2, but there are 2 types of dwarves, some that get a strength of +2 and some that get a wisdom of +2. You can choose between these 2, but not all races have sub-races. So for example, humans don't have any sub-races, they just get +1 to every single stat. Gnomes, for example, have forest gnomes and rock gnomes. All gnomes get +2 intelligence, some get +1 dexterity, some get +1 constitution. The other thing about the races is that they all have a specific speed. The speed is going to go right into that speed box, which is right here on the character sheet. After you're done doing all of this, we'll move on to race traits. Every single race has traits that go along with them. What you're going to want to do is go to the D&D Beyond page and find your race. And then find the headings that have the different race traits and read what each one does. If the trait tells you that you have a proficiency with a certain type of weapon or armor, that's going to go underneath other proficiencies and languages. If it tells you that you have proficiency with one of these skills, you're going to just put a check mark or bubble in the bubble next to that skill. Otherwise, if it doesn't fit into either of those 2 categories, it's going to go over here underneath features and traits. Just like before, how the stat bonuses had sub races, so do the race traits. So dwarves, the hill dwarves get a certain race trait, and the mountain dwarves get a different race trait. Languages on the page, it'll tell you what languages you definitely do know. Some of them will let you pick more languages. You can just Google D&D languages and pick some that sound interesting to you. After that, we have the ability modifiers, so you know those numbers that we wrote in there. Those numbers are going to decide some smaller numbers just beneath them. So for example, if I had a 15 in Constitution, I'm going to get +2, and I'm going to put it right there in that bubble underneath Constitution. You're going to do that for all 6 traits, and that's all you have to do right there. Next up, we have selecting a class. Here are all of the different classes for D&D. We also have a short description of each of them. If you want more information, you can go ahead and read the class page on D&D Beyond. You will need that later, so I would recommend pulling up your class page. We have the hit die, which essentially tells you what your maximum hit points are going to be at level 1. So what your maximum hit points are going to be, which is right there on the character sheet, is going to be the hit die plus your constitution modifier. So for example, if I were a bard with a constitution modifier +3, that's going to be 8 + 3 for a total of 11 maximum hit points. Keep in mind that if your constitution modifier is negative, you do subtract. So if I had a constitution modifier of -1 and I were a barbarian, my maximum hit points would actually be 11 instead of 12. Another thing that you get for picking a class is you get proficiencies in certain types of saving throws. It's not super important to know what a saving throw is. All you have to know is that if you're a paladin, you get wisdom and charisma, and what you're going to do is you're going to bubble in the 2 saving throws that you have proficiency in. Those are located right there next to all of the stats. So for example, here I did a barbarian, strength and constitution. I bubbled in strength and constitution. Finally, you have certain armor proficiencies. So Just like before, how your race might have given you proficiencies with certain type of armors and weapons, you also get proficiencies because of your class. So those are going to go underneath other proficiencies and languages, just like before. So you just write down this list of things over there. And then finally, we have class features. This is where going to the D&D Beyond page with your class is going to be super important. We've already taken care of all of this stuff in the previous couple slides, so the last thing that you need to do is pick your skills. So classes also give you proficiency in 2 more skills. I think all of them have 2, maybe I'm wrong, but for example here, fighter had a proficiency in intimidation and perception. So you get to choose 2 from this long list. I chose intimidation and perception, and then I just bubbled those in, and we'll get back to those bubbles later. Additionally, you also have a certain amount of equipment. You get to choose from this list of equipment and go ahead and put that on your equipment list. If you're looking for something, if it says something like a martial weapon, you can go ahead and look up D&D martial weapons and pick one from that list. Additionally, all classes have features. So at every single level, or sometimes every other level, you will get certain features that have to do with your class. So what you're going to want to do is find this table on your character or your class page, and you're going to put those the names of both of those features for first level underneath your features and traits. So for example, here I have the fighter table pulled up. First level, I have fighting style and second wind, so I would write that underneath features and traits. Here I have a wizard table with spellcasting and arcane recovery. Those are going to go under features and traits as well. Keep in mind you can only pick one class, so if I picked wizard, I couldn't pick from the fighter table. And another thing is that if you are a spellcaster, you're going to have this extra part of your table over here. So I will go over spellcasting in a different video. I'll try and keep that one short as well. Finally, we have the background. Background also grants you proficiencies. Once you pick one of these backgrounds over here, it gives you a certain proficiency. Again, you're just going to bubble those in on your skills list, and it also gives you either more tools that you're good with or more languages that you know. So that's going to go under other proficiencies and languages as well. You do get an additional feature, just like how you got class features earlier, from your background, but unfortunately D&D Beyond does not have all of these backgrounds listed. So if you pick one, just let me know and I'll let you know what the feature for that background is and what it does. And there are a few final things to do before I end the video. First things first, you got to put your dexterity modifier into your initiative box. That modifier is that number that you wrote in that little bubble there earlier. That's going to go directly into initiative. You're going to want to put +2 in the proficiency bonus circle next to the word proficiency bonus. Next up, you're going to want to put all of your ability modifiers in the saving throw spots. Great. So that's all these modifiers are going to go into the saving throw spots. So strength is going to go into strength, dexterity is going to go into dexterity, constitution is going to go into constitution. So if I had +2 to strength, it would go right there. If you have proficiency, which means that you bubbled it in earlier, you're going to add 2 to it because that's your proficiency bonus. So if you have dexterity bubbled in and you had +3 to dexterity, that would end up being +5 since 3 + 2 is 5. Next up, after that, you're going to fill out all of the skills with the corresponding ability. So for example, here acrobatics is a dexterity based ability. So I'm going to take my dexterity modifier and write it down here on that spot. If you have that bubble next to your ability, you're going to add that proficiency bonus. So for example, if my dexterity was +3, I would write +3 here, but if it's bubbled in, I would write +5 since 3 + 2 is 5. You're going to go all the way down, do that for all of the different skills, and then after that, you're going to put your passive wisdom as 10 plus your perception skills, so whatever you put for perception, add 10, put that right down there. Finally, you're going to want to give your character a name. You're going to write the class there, write the race there, and then write what background you picked. You can pick an alignment from this chart over here. Kind of gives a short description of what each one does. Pick one that you think your character would align with very well. And the last thing you need to do is come up with a reason for your character to be going to the zoo. So when we all meet up, all of our adventurers are going to be going to the zoo that day. For some very good reasons that will be explained in a long, long time. All of your characters don't have to be going there just for fun. Maybe they're trying to find someone and they got a tip that they were going to be at the zoo that day. Maybe they're just hanging out with friends and family. Maybe they're there to study the wildlife. Or maybe they're a barbarian who gets to pick a particular animal to base their barbarian skills off of later, and they just kind of wanted to see them in the wild. Who knows? The possibilities are endless. All you have to do is come up with some reason for you to be there. That pretty much covers it. Hopefully I didn't go too fast, and if you have any questions, please do let me know. All right, that covers it. See you guys.